All right, thanks for joining us, those who are here. We're probably going to allow a little bit of time for people to filter in, but we're really excited to have Dr. Karikari presenting with us today. This is our next installment of the Health Research 101 webinar series hosted by AIHEC and University of North Dakota as part of our Narch Birch grant programming. We've already had one webinar in this session take place featuring Dr. Melanie Nadeau from UND, who spoke about indigenized research methods. And that webinar is recorded and viewable on our YouTube channel if you'd like to watch. Today, we're going to have Dr. Karikari speak about identifying grant funding opportunities for research. So with that, we might wait another minute for any people to filter in, but please feel free to sit tight and we'll get started with the presentation in just a minute. All right, well, I think we will, in the interest of time, just go ahead and get started. So I'm going to hand things over to Dr. Karikari to introduce herself and get us started with today's presentation.
Fantastic. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining. We are very, very excited for this webinar. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Do you see my screen okay?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Fantastic. Is it so are participants able to chat or what do we see from
We have a chat with this Zoom meeting call. So if you'd like to put any questions in there, we can, Maggie and I can keep an eye on the chat and field any to you while you're presenting.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I want this to be interactive. Grant writing is so unique and so, at the same time, so varies that depending on what you're looking for, this may not be the right content, but I'm going to give the most basic as possible, which we can all kind of learn something from. So I'll pray that you extend some grace. For some of us, we are experts already, so this would just be a refresher, but there may be people who may be receiving this information for the first time. So depending on your level, please extend some grace towards this content. So my name is Grace Kakari. I'll show you my name. It's written as Karikari, but you will say Kakari. And I'm coming to you from the Indigenous Health Program. Our program is wonderful. It's one of the unique ones, Indigenous Health PhD in Canada and US. We are one of the first. So I'm very, very privileged to be working with such a great community. I took this picture from our website in case you wanted to learn more about the program. It's much, much easier going to the university's website and just typing in Indigenous Health PhD program. All the information you need will come up. But in case you are wondering, where is that accent coming from? Why is she talking like that? Well, let me help you out, okay? I am from Ghana, West Africa, and I took the bigger map from online. Ghana will be somewhere here if you can see my arrow. That little country here, that also helps people see that Africa is a continent, not a country. I needed to say that. But I'm from Ghana, West Africa, and within Ghana, which this map is, I'm from the Ashanti region. I was born and raised in Kumasi, so I speak the Akan language, and I'm a native of that tribe, the Akan tribe of Ghana. So I am not indigenous of the United States. I'm just an educator who is privileged enough to be working with you all awesome people. So in Ghana, we have multiple languages. I asked Mr. Google, how many languages are in Ghana? And he said 80, over 80. So I believe Google, okay? I thought I'll also share some pictures to just excite you. This is not why I'm here, but if you want to learn more about Ghana, Mr. Google is your best friend now. We have a lot of culture, a lot of food, a lot of entertainment in that little country out there. All right. And in terms of family, these two happy people gave birth to me. I always love to share them. I'm a mother of three, but I wouldn't have been here without these two. My father, Festus, and my mom, Felicia. And my father is wearing that strange looking outfit because he's a priest. He's an Anglican priest. So that is why he's wearing that. That's his profession. And my mom is a health worker. She worked many, many years as a nurse and just retired this year. I mean, I just love to let people know that I am from Ghana. My undergrad is from Ghana, but most of my education is from the United States. I got my master's and multiple degrees from Indiana University, and I have other certification in health and wellness. But back to why we are here today. At UND, I teach multiple classes, including grant writing and management. So, from that class, I am hoping to share a little bit of how you can find your own resources out there to support your ideas, your projects, your research. So, if you need more information about me, this is also a screenshot from the Investis website. The amazing thing is, everything you need to know, they usually have it there. And if you don't find it, there is an email address there that you can just click on it and it will take you to the person you are looking for. So, where do we start from? Identifying grant funding opportunities for research. Yes, this says research, but I bet it will work as well for community projects or for other things that you may be interested in. So don't hesitate at all and log off because it says research. Stay with us. There will be something out there for you. I wanted to start off by helping us look at the grant cycle. We may not all be at the same space or even be starting from the same angle. Typically, this beautiful image, which I didn't draw, I took from online, is showing us the multiple places we could be at a time. So, step one, we could be at a stage where we are now generating an idea. So, I'm thinking about looking into why diabetes is high in my community. That could be now that I'm generating the idea. Then step two would be, okay, I have this wonderful idea. I want to understand this topic. Where can I find the funding? So that will be your step two. And then you go on to develop a proposal for that opportunity you found. You submit the proposal. That will be your step four. And hopefully you get awarded. That will be your step five. Then you go through the grant management phase where you manage the award you've received and how you can use that for your research project. And then maybe you go back to step one. Typically, that is where people start from. They have a wonderful idea. Then they look for money that will fund that idea. And then they go on to develop the proposal and so on and so forth. Sometimes, too, some of us already have the idea or maybe we don't, but we saw this grant opportunity out there. We saw this NOFO. NOFO is Notice of Funding Opportunity. So we've seen this NOFO out there. And like, oh, there is $200,000 available to communities in these areas. And I think I qualify. Can we possibly apply for this? What can we do? So that means you are starting from step two. You already have access to some kind of funding or potential funding. Or sometimes too, we are lucky enough and like let's say AIHEC has money already. And then they will call for proposals. Okay, teachers out there, if you would like to pursue a research in this particular area, how we can support college students or tribal students thrive, submit your proposal for maybe $10,000. The money is already available, so you just start from two and then you jump on and on and on and on. Sometimes two people are just already developing the proposal, then they invite you on. So we may be at different phases of this cycle, but this is the grant cycle typically that we'll find ourselves using. In the past, I will proudly show this diagram or image and tell people that there is so much money. This is how the government is distributing the money. But we all know that the political era we are in, things are changing. There are so many uncertainties. We don't know which money is available, which money is not available. So I can't confidently tell you that this is how the money is going to be dispersed in 2024, 2025, right? But typically, this is how you will see the federal government disperse the money. They will have a huge 70% for their mandatory expenses. They have some money allotted for discretionary funding. They have some money allotted for non-defense discretionary funding. And then they have some money allotted for net interest, all this. But usually there is so much money available for us to all tap in for our different projects because we will all be tapping from the 14%. And think about it, 14% of 6,000 billion. Okay, those who went to good schools, do the math. Okay, there is so much money available for research and other projects. Now I can't typically stick with this because it probably is going to change, but there are other ways of getting money. There are other funding opportunities there. So I went back to my best friend, Mr. Google, and I said, what else is out there? What can we find? Because typically, especially like the School of Medicine, UND, we usually go for NIH funding, we usually go for NSF funding, but also there are state opportunities, there are county opportunities, there are city opportunities, there are also private and non-profit funding, there are also institutional funding, even within UND. Sometimes there are funding opportunities. Last year, I had the opportunity to receive over $3,000 to travel to Ghana to look into a study abroad program I am developing for UND. That money came from internal. So don't just restrict yourself and don't lose hope when one's funding source is lost or is uncertain. So, of course, my best friend and I did some work. So I asked Mr. Googles to give me more ideas, right? Which I think you can do from your end as well. Google likes many friends, so just Google it. What are
Mhm.
some government opportunities for add your research topic? So let's say, for example, what are some of your ideas? Izzy, do you have a great idea? What kind of research would you have gone for?
Hmm. If I was going to do research, I think I'd be really interested in something related to epidemiology, maybe, and maybe how that intersects too with like anthropology in a way. So maybe how communities can address epidemics.
Mm,
Mhm.
And can you give me an example of a community?
A community maybe could be a tribal community.
Okay, so we are looking at epidemiology. So we can go broadly, epidemiology funds for tribal communities in the United States. That is a broad search. So many things will come up. Some may be relevant, some may not be relevant. And you can stream down too. You can go maybe more specific and use the very topic that you are interested in to search and see what comes up. There are some databases you can go to directly, like um, grant.gov and those private other ones that you can use. But usually the general one most of us want to go to, we are not looking for the millions and the millions of dollars, just something little to support our research and our community. So this, as I said, my best friend brought up, this is looking at the government level. So this may be beyond what some of us may want to do because it's more of a national thing. But there are also some specific ones. I don't know about World Health Organization status at the moment and CDC and those ones. So just be open-minded and look beyond the ones you are very confident about. So these are some specific ones like the African Development Bank research grant. They give a lot of grants that support science and technology and many things, but in Africa. So maybe that is something I will be interested in, but you may not be interested in something like that. But when you go to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they give a lot of funds within the USA and for rural communities. So maybe your community may be classified rural. That may be a place to look at. That may really be a place to look at. And of course, Carnegie Foundation has been around for a long time and they support education. So maybe you are looking for a grant to go to school or you're already in school, getting closer to your dissertation period, and you're looking for grants that will help you fund your dissertation. It's research, right? So you can look at some specific ones like this. So you can take a screenshot of this. And I believe this is not expensive at all. There is so much more out there. Typically, what I say is that the big organizations like Amazon, okay, Coca-Cola, all those people usually have so much money and they don't want to pay taxes. So they have foundations where they pump these money into to support the community and they get tax breaks from that. Okay. Maybe it's not fair to say they don't want to pay taxes, but they kind of redirect the money to support communities. So sometimes you can look at Coca-Cola and there may be some money there for community projects or for little research projects. All right. So don't even close the door to those opportunities at all. On a yearly basis, I see Chick-fil-A. announce funding for women and minority. I think they usually go for women and minority. And I don't know how much it is, but every year they release that funds. Every year they send that money out. If you have a project that will benefit women and people in the minority groups, that may be a place to look at. Okay. All right. So and then industries, like I'm saying, Google has money they give out often, Microsoft have money they give out often, and so many more, depending on the field you are looking at. If you're looking at the sciences, there may be funds specific to the sciences. If you are looking at maybe industrial work, some of the engineering companies give to support people in the industries. Okay. If you are looking at public health, there will be something for you. If you are looking at community health, I mean, I'm talking health because I'm in health and I can barely think of anything right now out of the box of health. Okay. But just be open-minded wherever you are. Just think of the possibilities. Okay. And I know that we recently had a faculty meeting and one of my mentors was talking about rephrasing of things. So maybe we may be saying something in a specific way, but it can be rephrased to fit another category. Okay. So let's say we are interested in what can I think of? Maggie, do you have an idea? What are you interested in? Let's use your example.
Um, maybe something health related to like gut health.
We are all health people, we are stuck with health. You know? So something related to gut health. Do you have a specific community in mind?
Oh, probably the American Indian community, even though maybe children specifically.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that health for American Indian children, do you have a specific tribe or area in mind?
Um, I don't. Maybe our Southwest tribes.
Okay, so I'm asking specifically because the more specific you are, the better your chances. Sometimes there are some funds that are specific to a geographic area.
So what about the Navajo Nation?
Fantastic. So then you can do that specific search because Navajo Nation is in the Arizona area or more than that, right?
Yeah, it's I think Arizona and New Mexico.
In New Mexico. So maybe there may be a pot of funds dedicated to tribal nations in that specific area. It means that if I'm from a tribe in the North Dakota areas, I may not get access to that. It's
Mhm.
specific for your area. So instead of just writing American Indian children, sometimes you can start broad to see the options out there, but get as specific as possible and see what will come to you. So maybe Arizona State University even has funds they are given to support Navajo Nation research, related research. So then, as specific as you are, that may pop up and you will get to see it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Fantastic. So, whatever example you have in your mind, go that specific. Maybe there is a business out there and they want to give specific to their area. We had the Indigenous Wellness and Resilient Grant within the University of North Dakota, but it's specific to areas within, I think North Dakota, South Dakota, the communities just around us.
Mm.
So, I can't even remember all the communities. Like, I think it's just 4 states just in our area. And then you can look at the nations within those states.
Mm.
Is that you can have a beautiful wellness and resilient idea. You may be a native with a native idea and it works perfectly, but because the research will not be focusing on these 4 states around us, it will not be granted to you. So the more specific you are, the better your chances will be. So as you can see, this slide said work smart, not hard. I'm not saying hard work is bad. Hard work is wonderful. But when it comes to grant writing and grant search, smart work is the way to go. First of all, you have to know what you are looking for. Okay. What are you looking for? How do you start with the search? Approach the grant search process from an informed perspective. I initially showed you the grant cycle. Know where you are in the cycle. Do you already have your idea you are pursuing, or you already have an information to some funding source and you are rather now creating an idea towards it? Just know where you are and what exactly you are looking for. That will save you a lot of time. If you will take, for example, right now, randomly search on your computer, on your phone, any idea, grants related to boys in something, so much information will come up, maybe thousands of information. You don't have time to go through all that. You do not. So you have to know specifically what will be your yes and what will be your no. So begin the search guided by a structured and specified criteria. I'll share one with you in a second. Search for grants that are in sync with your aims and objectives. There's so much money out there, but not everything may be for you. There will be some grants that you go for and it will end up being burden to you and your community. Make sure that it's in line with your aims and they really support what you stand for. And get a rubric to categorize the funding opportunities you'll be seeing. And a simple one could be something like this. When you look at the opportunity out there, these are absolutely acceptable. That is something that you are possibly going to go for. Absolutely unacceptable. Like this is a no, no, no for me. And acceptable. It's possible. Let me see if these ones wouldn't work. Then this is something I will look at. So a simple table could be like this. This is from a textbook 2010, but there could be much, much better out there. And some of you are really good with creating your own systems that work. Please do. And if you have other better resources, put in the chat for all of us to enjoy, please. Yeah, so if you have a simple table like this and you are searching online, Foundation A, is that a viable or appropriate funding source for you? If yes, you check it. Agency A, is this something you would like to go for? Maybe no, you check it. If you don't keep track like this, you may keep going back and back. You'll be writing in circles and you end up wasting time. That is not smart work. But if you have something like this, you can, if Foundation A doesn't work out, you can always go back to your list and realize that, oh, you had something similar. That was Foundation C. And the same prepared proposal could be just modified a little bit and sent to Foundation C. And you may possibly get the money. But if you don't have a list like this, you are now going to start the search all over again and see what fits. That is a lot of time wasted and you don't want that happening. All right, so prerequisite information that should be considered prior to embarking on the search. I think the writing is not easy, but once you know what you are going for, the writing will flow. So spend the most time finding the right kind of opportunity. Then you go into the writing. So look at the eligibility, condition, matching requirements, allowable cost, program areas, and funding amount. So I'm going to look at each of them. Oh, I guess I didn't put a slide for each of them, so I'll just talk through. When it comes to eligibility, when you see the funding information, the announcement, the grant announcement, the NOFO, notice of funding opportunity, when it comes to you and you are going to create your criteria and align them appropriately, the first thing you have to look at is eligibility. Who is eligible for this money? Like we gave the example with Maggie, is it Navajo Nation or is it all indigenous peoples? You have to look at that. Condition, what are the conditions given? Do you have to be in a rural area, which also works really well with the program area? Or do you have to be a professor to be able to apply? Or do you need to be in connection with the community? I know many of the tribal grants require that you have a connection with or in a community. So these days you can't just write a nice proposal and say, I'm going to change the lives of the people in Navajo Nation. How? You are not even one. You are not a citizen of the nation and you are not working with the people. So you should just give you the money and what happens, most foundations are no longer supporting research like that. They would like to see an approval from the nation, maybe the leaders from the nation saying that we support this idea and we'll be working collaboratively with this researcher. Or you may be a citizen of the nation, so then you will prove that you live there your community supports your idea, and this is the idea, collective idea, or you have the collective support. So something like that. What are the conditions? One other important thing is the matching requirement. Some grants will say, we are going to give you $100,000 if you can prove that you can also produce $100,000. Are you able to match it? Some grants do not match, which is fantastic. That's the type I like. Or the type that says you can match in kind. That means that you can have your staff work on it for free. It's not really free, but the staff you're already paying. So the grant will not be going towards paying for staff on the grant. It will be going directly into the community or the research related stuff. So all of these things are things you have to look at. You just don't start applying and then you realize that, oh, you actually cannot use this money for this specific thing you wanted to use it for. This money is not for traveling. You have to just use it towards buying an equipment. And here you are, you rather need that money to get into the community, to pay participants, and to do some specific things. So you have to look at that. And that leads me to the allowable cost. What are you allowed to use the money for? What can't you use the money for? I remember some of the government funding, we couldn't buy food with it. So it doesn't matter how many hours you spend in community, you cannot use that money to buy food for the people. That means if I go for that money, I should be thinking of how I'll be feeding my study participants. So I'll be applying for a backup grant, maybe a little grant from somewhere else to support them. If not, then I have to think twice. Is it really fair to my participants to just sit there for hours and hours and get nothing for their time and be hungry and thirsty? Sometimes it's not worth it. Then you have to let it go. And then the program area, are you allowed to just implement the research in any area? Think about that as well. And then the funding amount, how much is the money and how much do you need? Is it in line with what you need? If it's more than that, do you have a legitimate reason to justify why you need, let's say, $500,000 when the project is actually going to cost you around 100,000? Or maybe the grant amount is 20,000, but you are really in need of 100,000. What are you going to do to close the gap? Are there other opportunities you can go for? But then is it also worth your time to invest into applying for a $20,000 grant if you can use the same time and energy to target a bigger grant later? So all these will help you if you will take your time to think about it. So let's say now we have our RFA, okay? We have our NOFU. What next? There is no such thing as free money. If anybody tells you, oh, this is free, come for it. Someone is paying for it somehow, okay? It's free to you, but not free to the person paying. So most grants seems like free money, but it's coming from somewhere. Either a family has contributed towards it and say, we are passionate about these communities and we want this money to be dedicated to research in these communities. Somebody saved for it. It's not free. Or it's taxpayers' money. If the city is giving an amount of the money for this project, somebody's money somehow. So I always recommend that you approach the writing process with that in mind, that this is hard-earned money, and whatever you are proposing to use the money for should be important. Don't just go for the money's sake and blow it out there. It is somebody's hard-earned money. There is no such thing as free money. So before the full proposal, think like the reviewers, write for the reviewers. The money is not yours. If you had money, you wouldn't be writing the proposal. So write the proposal according to the requirements. What do they want from you? Write that for them. So for example, the season we are in, we know that there are challenges with using things related to DEI. Okay, if you can't use DEI, what can you use? What are they recommended that you use? Humble yourself, look for it and use it. If not, you are not going to get the money. That is the challenge. So think like the reviewer. What does the reviewer want? What do they want you to write? Another challenge I personally face is the word elderly. In Ghana and my tribe, we say elders for older persons, okay? But in the United States, elderly is not always accepted. That's what I found in my aging-related research. Some people frown against elderly, so you have to use older persons, older adults. in your grant application. So let's say I say, oh, mine people say elderly, so I'm just going to write elderly. Potentially, I will not get this grant because I wasn't sensitive to their requirements, okay? Because I want their money, I'm going to replace all the elderly with older adults, older persons, or whatever other term they are requiring me to use. But if I feel like, no, I want to stick with elderly, I don't want to rephrase because I want your money, then it means this grant is not for me. This grant is not for you. Wait and find another grant that will allow you to use the term you want to use to describe what you want to describe. And I promise you, there are always grants out there that support your vision. It just takes time and patience to search. Okay, will your research have the greatest effect or make the greatest difference? Does your proposed research meet the objectives and requirements as listed in the grant application? That means you're looking at the mission, the eligibility, the condition, the deadline. Can you meet the deadline? Maybe they are asking for the proposal. We actually just had one. Some colleagues sent me a possible opportunity and it's due February 20th. And the person was sending this around February 9th.
Mm.
No, Friday. What was Friday's date? Friday is not February 9th. Whatever Friday was. So thinking about it and all the things I have to do this week, I knew it wasn't feasible. Okay. And instead of just putting together, if you already had an idea, a draft proposal somewhere, this would be wonderful. Just pick it, change, send. That this was going to be a brand new idea, a brand new budget, a brand new collaboration, and it takes time. It takes time to reach out to people. If you want to do a great job, you need to be patient. So do you have the expertise to accomplish the research or can you collaborate? Maybe this research is asking for somebody who has statistical skills, quantitative statistical skills. You don't have that, but maybe you have other skills that will complement the project. So then you can write that. Though you don't have this, you can have someone on your team who already has this. Or if they want the lead to have that skill, then maybe this will not be the grant for you. You have to step away from it. Then you can always contact the grant coordinator or managers or the officers to ask questions. Don't be afraid. Usually when the announcement comes out, there is always a name. If you have further questions, contact da 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 da. Use it. Use it, use it, use it. They are there paid so that you can ask your questions. So you can send a short email. Hey, this is an idea I have for this specific community on this specific project. Is this something that you believe fits in your project? They will give you the guide. They'll say, no, we actually want to focus on only Navajo Nation. Or they can say that, no, it's broad. Yes, you fit in, you can submit it. Or, if you can change this to A, B, C, you will fit in. So always use it. Always use it. All right, so I think I want to make sure we have time for questions. So what is the formula for grant success? Well, it is said that a successful proposal must have a good idea, a good timing, a good presentation, a good reviewers, and a good grantmanship, and maybe a little bit of luck in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So every little thing helps, right? But this may not be as necessary anymore, but I was thinking that I'll share with you every grant opportunity comes with its criteria, how they grade the grants, and you can always ask questions. What are the ways? This is from the NIH, and they have it on their website. They have it everywhere so that you know the areas they find important. They will say that what is the significance of the project? Who are the investigators? Okay, what is the approach they are using towards this project? Is it innovative enough? And the environment. So they will be grading out of these 5 criteria. This may not work for foundations. Some foundations are just looking at the significance of the project. How important is this? Maybe that weighs more points than the area this is being done. Others are rather looking at the area, the environment. Where is this being done? Because this grant is dedicated to specific people within this geographic area. So maybe that will win more points. You cannot just say because NIH goes with these, this is what everybody will be using. Let me invest my time into this. Just ask. If it's already written on the website or it's written on the grant information, the NOFO, that's wonderful. If not, you can always ask questions. So what is the secret to an award-winning grant proposal? The answer is already there. Visit your RFA as many times as possible. Visit is the same thing. The request for funds announcement, the notice of funds. People call it different names. They give it different titles when it's sent out. But just visit it as much as possible. Sometimes the difference between Grace winning the grant and Easy winning the grant is that I paid attention to what they wanted, used the terms they wanted, provided the formatting the way they wanted. So the reviewer looks at it and like, this one stayed in tune with us much more than this other person. So that will be my recommendation to you. If you want to win it, stay with them. What do they want from you? Stick with it. All right, here are some common mistakes that we see when we are reviewing grants. So as you are going around doing your own work, I thought I will show you this. Usually people use acronyms and jargons that they think everybody knows, but we don't know. So I've been saying CDC, NIH, assuming that you all know. So let's say you don't know CDC. Now you are thinking, this lady is probably crazy. What is CDC? You know, something like that can be an issue, but I'm assuming because this is health, I could say that. So don't make assumptions. Define it. National Institute of Health, Center for Disease Prevention, and what full name. Use it in your grant application. You may assume somebody knows, but they may not know. An overly ambitious study. Do not exaggerate your significance or how innovative the study is. Like, this has never been done before. This study would change the life of everybody in my community. I mean, how are you justifying that? Okay. You can clearly go like, this is a start to potentially changing lives, because as we have answers to these particular issue, we can expand on them and serve the broader community. That is feasible. You want to understand and do more, but do not exaggerate your data as well. Sometimes we have a little bit of data and we make it applicable to all indigenous peoples are not the same. You can't pick a data from one community and give it to another community. The uniqueness must be there. So something to think about. Then pay attention to instructions. I cannot say this enough. Pay attention to instructions. Most of the time, the instructions are all provided. If they are not, you can also ask questions. And start early. Do not wait till last minute. If you are desiring to start on a project, always start early. Give yourself enough time before the deadline. And then my last tip, I always tell people, let your friends read, but also let your enemies read. Sometimes friends cover up, okay? They say, oh, this is such a wonderful idea. I think you will get the money. Let your enemies also look at it and they will tell you the truth. Like, no, I wouldn't give you the money because of this, and you can make the necessary modifications. All right, I think I would like to end here. And then we can pick some questions and discuss. This is meant to be more of an informative session and discussion, much more than me talking and talking and talking. So thank you.
Thank you for all that information.
Yeah.
I think when I'm helping someone write a grant for the Native American community, I always advise them to work with your tribal community very early in the process.
Yes.
And like the graphic you shared, when you're generating ideas as step one, that I think is the appropriate time to include your partner who's a Native organization, tribe, tribal college, whatever. That way you have more buy-in and your project will be judged by that community as a real collaboration, because so often our tribal communities have really been ripped off by researchers. They
Yes.
take the information and run, and none of that information goes back into the community. So I just, yeah, so to Reno's point, I think definitely for our Native communities,
establishing a trust, building that up first is definitely an important step. A little more generally, I was curious, what do you think about the use of AI in, and I know you didn't so much speak about writing the grant, but about kind of the prep work to writing a grant, and then maybe speaking on writing a grant as well.
Good question. AI. Whew. It's very dicey. I think we are all now exploring AI, the use, the ethical use. Some foundations and agencies are very specific. They will say, do not use AI. Some also say if you use AI, declare how it was used. So you can be open as possible. AI was used for generating the ideas, but the write-up was by the investigators. Or I don't know if it will affect your grade if you say AI generated the ideas and wrote the whole thing. I don't know. But I think asking will help, because as much as you can use the AI, there are also ways to tell if AI was used. And you don't want to find yourself in a situation where AI was not allowed and you use the AI and you get disqualified. But you could have maybe equally brainstorm and do the work. So I don't know if there's a straight out answer, but I know that some agencies are very specific on how it can be used, and others are just saying no at all. So maybe you should ask. Or if anybody has experiences, they can share with us. Reno, have you had any AI related experience with your grants?
We use AI in our online coursework that we develop. And the AI is trained by the information that we feed it to
Okay.
be, it is becoming a research specialist for Native American issues. That's how we have used it in the past, and there may be opportunities that you'll see us use it in the Narch Birch grant, which is funding this webinar, and UNV's contributions to our project. I
Fantastic.
liked what you had to say about the writing and really keep the reviewer in mind to make things easy for them. I think that's very important because the reviewers get a lot of paper or a lot of content for one project, and they have to read through all of that. And just like when you're a teacher, you don't want to be tired and grumpy when you read someone's term paper because they might not get the best grade. So I think that applies to our reviewers. If there is a certain order in the announcement, follow that, because their tools for assessing your project might also be in that very same format, and it doesn't have them go back and forth between pages.
Yes.
So I think that is helpful.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
I wanted to share that I liked your comments about the language in a grant. So if it's, for example, maybe we can't use DEI language right now, but kind of emphasizing that if you aren't able to reframe something, that the grant's not for you. I think that's important reminder that there are probably other opportunities that more align with what you're trying to do, and not trying to stick, stubbornly with something that's not a good fit.
Yeah, that's true, because then it's probably against what you stand for, and you're going to struggle through the implementation phase as well, because what you want to do will be restricted by what they don't want you to do. It's best you don't even go for it at all and then stay with something that aligns with what you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder.
Maggie and I have also learned that when most of our grants are with NIH, and we have to speak their language in asking for the money,
Yeah.
and they communicate with us in their language. So we have to be that way. But when we are trying to recruit students from tribal colleges, the NIH language has no meaning to our targeted population. So
Mm.
we spend time rewriting the words so it has meaning for the tribal college student. We don't, in our work with the student, we don't use words like biomedical
Okay.
because there's no tangible picture or vision of what that really means. So we use words like if you want to help your community solve problems in health,
Mm.
they understand what that means. And as we keep those students in the academic pipeline, they will gradually get to the point of understanding what biomedical entails. But our job is to bring in students that are new to the idea, and we've got to embed this in their soul in order to get through all the educational hoops.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that concept you talk about in using language effectively.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, Dr. Karikari, I wanted to just give you a chance if you have any closing remarks you want to share for the students who will be watching the recording of the webinar today. Just if you have any closing thoughts or final comments you want to share on your presentation.
Yeah, I just want to say that sometimes it's scary to get started when you think about grant writing. It's like, I'm not qualified to do it. But it's it can be simplified one step at a time. Just start with the idea and then go ahead and look for the funding and then just apply according to what they want. The guide, speak their language, like explain what you want to do. And now you can always let someone review, or you can find, if AI is accepted, AI to refine some of the things you've already written for you. I'm not saying AI is writing for you. You write and you can use AI to refine it. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid at all to approach a grant writing. You can start with maybe 50,000, 50,000 maybe high, $5,000, okay? Start with 5,000, $500 just to improve your community park. Okay, then try 1,000. Then try, more than that. There is money everywhere, as little as 500 and more. So just explore with little, build your confidence and keep going. But there is money out there. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid of the changes. The money will always be there. We may have to find different languages or different ways of finding it, or new partners. But don't be afraid. There will always be funding available for what you want to do.
Thank you for sharing that.